Puritans renounced the Church of England eventually, yes, separatists first, and then eventually the Congregationalists and the Presbyterians also. What did Puritans seek? Religious freedom. And of course, always the big irony is that they're coming for religious toleration, and how tolerant are they? Not at all. Winthrop, City on a Hill, and John Winthrop was a Puritan who brought the Congregationalists here starting in 1630, and he talked about creating a city on the hill. That's a metaphorical city on a hill. To him, that means a utopian religious community that will prosper because God will be so happy about it. That then, as it prospers, other people will look at it and say, gosh, we should abandon our poor religious practices, and we too will be part of the city upon the hill. Puritan families, mom and dad were the role models for children. Puritan children were expected to be little adults, just shorter adults, okay? Even at 3, you were expected to behave properly as a Puritan child. But that's true of people in general in this time period. There was really no concept of childhood per se, okay? Certainly no concept of teenagehood. At 12, you were expected to behave like an adult. The role of Puritan women. A, they were the non-voting members in the congregation. B, they were equal to men at home. C, they could hold church offices. D, they presided over town meetings. Or E, they were allowed to be ministers. A, non-voting members of the congregation. Could women be saints? Yes. Could they vote on church matters? No. Were they equal to men at home? No, men were considered to be superior, or more, they were the father, like God the Father. Could they hold church offices? No, they couldn't preside over town meetings, and they weren't allowed to be ministers, though Anne Hutchinson sort of tries to be. How did New England show democracy? Town meetings, okay? Regardless of whether you could vote or not, because you were a saint or not, or you didn't own land or not, every man was expected to come to town meetings in the villages in New England and give his opinion on topics of discussion. Once you were able to vote, well, because you were a saint or you owned land, depending on what the qualification was, you were expected as a Puritan to vote for the governor, the town mayor, the council, the assembly, whatever. Okay? And New England was very democratic between town meetings and all elected officials. Harvard, why was it founded in 1636? To train religious leaders or ministers, clergy, whatever words you want to use. Remember, ministers, clergy, priest, all the same thing. Halfway covenant, if your parents, grandparents had been baptized, which meant they were saints, you could be baptized regardless of the fact that you weren't a saint. Okay, by 1660, a lot of Puritans were turning away from the church because they didn't want any part of that whole conversion experience. And they were setting up their own churches. And so in order to try to preserve Puritanism, they offered them this way to come back to the church. It garnered a lot of women because they couldn't vote in church matters anyway. And now they didn't have to do a conversion experience and they could be baptized. It didn't garner a lot of male support because they still had no say-so in the church because they weren't saints. And a lot of them by 1660 were tired of church rules like a limit on how much money you could make, what percentage of profit you could charge. Okay? So Puritanism by 1700 is really dead, and it's called Congregational Church, the Presbyterian Church, the Baptist Church. Okay? Role of Puritan families. Puritan families were an extension of community authority. If little Samir is on his way to church on Sunday and he's skipping along whistling, and I'm the preacher and I see him, I'm going to chastise him, but I'm also going to chastise his parents for allowing him to whistle and skip on Sunday. Okay? Winthrop and the model of Christian charity meant 2 out of these 3. The church gives to the poor, you stay close-knit as a community, or tax support for the church. stay close-knit as a community, and tax support for the church. The church give to the poor. It was not a real big idea amongst Puritans, because they really believed that if you were poor, people were going to help you, don't get me wrong. But to Puritans, being poor was a symbol that you must be doing something in secret that God doesn't approve of. Because otherwise, why would you be poor? All right? So they weren't real big on handouts to the poor, because nobody should be poor if you're doing what you should be doing religiously. Okay? Why was Roger Williams banished? For heresy. Okay? Remember that he called for two things. First and foremost, he called for separation of church and state. He didn't think that the state should enforce the anti-whistling law on Sunday. Okay? We shouldn't jail little Samir for whistling on Sunday. That should be up to the church to do whatever they want to do in church. But the state is not going to enforce that law. Okay? He was also banished for, another thing he said was that land should be purchased from the Indians. People like John Winthrop felt that the Puritans had the right to the land because, according to him, the Indians didn't use it properly. They didn't set up proper little English farms. And if they didn't set up perfect little English farms, then it was up to the English to show them how they should really use their land. So that's why Roger gets banished. Rhode Island and Pennsylvania in religious toleration. The two colonies with total religious toleration were Rhode Island and Pennsylvania, because they guaranteed religious toleration for everyone. Whether you were Christian or Jewish, and I suppose there were even a few atheists in this time period. I don't know that people would make it that a real public fact, but they guaranteed that you're right. You didn't have to pay tithing taxes, okay? In Virginia and Massachusetts, everybody paid taxes that supported the church. And in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, or excuse me, Rhode Island and Pennsylvania, you did not pay taxes to support churches. Why was Anne Hutchinson banished? Once again for heresy. And her heresy deals with antinomianism, which is the next term. Antinomianism said that Anne Hutchinson was a saint, and as a saint,
She couldn't tell who else was a saint.
she could tell who else was a saint. So she could come into this classroom and say, Connor, yay, you're a saint. Rebecca, sorry. Okay? And that was considered heresy by the church fathers and people like John Winthrop especially, because then why would Rebecca choose to behave? And so Rebecca's going to misbehave because she's damned to eternal hell anyway. So now the whole community's at jeopardy once again. So we either have to get rid of Rebecca, or we have to never tell her that she's damned, and she can live out her life and hope that she's saved and she'll live a good and godly life regardless of where she ends up. Okay? Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, written by Thomas Hooker and his followers. First written constitution in the colonies. Okay, first written constitution in the colonies.